what psychedelics did for me that first time, I think was like completely shatter my reality. And it like made the first crack. Like, okay, we got her. Let's like really hard. Like, okay, this shell of this clay that she's built up over her true being is so not it. Like, let's make the first crack. And that first crack, I was like fucked up, for lack of a better word, for months. I mean, months on end. And that first lesson, that loving yourself and the people around you, that lesson is still going on to today.
Hey, you feel that? You are now tuned into You Feel That with Bryce the Third. Yo, Phil fam, what's up? And welcome to another episode of You Feel That with Bryce the Third, the show where we aim to turn your I can'ts into I got this by providing you with tools and ways of looking at life that empower you emotionally and mentally, no matter what field you are in. And today, I have a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Miss Spiritually Dope herself, Amanda. I am excited to be able to pick your brain in public. I feel like our conversations that we've had in private can benefit a lot of people on a lot of different walks of life. And I am very, very excited to have you here. How you feeling?
I feel great. You know what's funny, Bryce? Our conversations, I have to like speak in the mic. Our conversations, they literally go from 0 to 100. Like if anyone was watching, they'd be like, hold on, where did like you, no surface level, nothing, just all depth. Yup, that's how we roll.
Yeah, and I'm always appreciative when I come across a spirit and a soul like that, because that's kind of where I live, and it can be intense for a lot of people, you know. But it's like I'm like, if you're ready to dive in, I've already dove in. I'm just waiting for you to dive in with me for real.
Yo, you definitely live there. I mean, you live there. You live there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, the whole point of this podcast is to kind of create a space where we have the ability to be expressed. You know, people who live there, who are willing to go there, who reside there. Like, this is a space where we can come in and meet new people that are there as well, and learn how to use this ability, this special power, if you will, in a way that empowers us and isn't debilitating. Because that can also be a thing that it's like, if we don't know, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. So if we don't know the extent to which this is a superpower, it can almost be overwhelming. So, yeah.
Absolutely. You're right.
Miss Spiritually Dope, Miss 36,000 followers on Instagram, Miss Open Your Mind, Miss Psychedelic Healing Advocate. Tell us a little bit about you. You're from Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
mm-hmm.
So yeah, like tell us a little bit about you and what you're all about.
Sure. So I really should have prepared to answer this, but I think there's a lot of things that I do like for work, but I think at the heart of it all, I want everyone to be able to heal what is holding them back and be aware of what is holding them back, and really shed all the layers that people have placed upon them, or they may have placed upon themselves, so they can just raise their consciousness and be a sovereign being. So whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, it is what it is. You do you. You know, God has spoken to you and given you a purpose, and you follow that. But it will take you being a sovereign being and understanding that first. So I think that's what I'm all about, if I have to boil everything that I do down into one thing.
It's so interesting how we can be on the same wavelength. We have aligned missions. Like, our mission statement is damn near aligned. Like, that's kind of what I've set to do with Bryce the Third, and it started with music. Still is music, but we're getting more defined as to how we can coach the community to have autonomy within themselves. And, you know, but how, though our mission statements are very, very similar, how our pathway, or our weapons, if you will, to fighting that fight of preparing the community to be autonomous or to be sovereign are different. Like, we're in our own lanes. And so what is some of your favorite tools to help to promote sovereignty in people in the community? Like what are some of your favorite go-to tools to kind of carry this mission out?
Yeah, well, one, if we were having a conversation on, just you and I would go somewhere, and I will go there in a couple seconds. So just like, let's earmark this, but I will answer your question. So I think my favorite tool is awareness and achieving that awareness through psychedelics, because the way that we live and the way that we operate, like in this society and in this human body, is that our brains function in patterns, because we have so much stimuli coming at us at all times. And to really function in a human body and not go crazy by realizing every little tiny thing, our brain has to work in patterns. So that's how we go through life. That's how we can, just not be overwhelmed. And what happens when your brain works in continuous patterns is that there are some things that you overlook or you're not really aware of because your brain's kind of not allowing you to go there. So I spent so many years in traditional therapy, and I can say, and when I say so many years, like I was 8 years old and I asked my mom for a therapist because I was like, y'all don't understand me. Like I need someone who can. Thanks for saying that, Bryce. Yeah. And I'm happy I had parents. I have to thank them. I have to thank them for being willing and able to allow me to go to therapy, because I feel like some parents may not have understood, or they would have been like, go to church, you're fine. But they did, but they didn't. They don't understand the depths of these emotions. So anyway, I did years in traditional therapy, and it wasn't until I did experience some psychedelics that I was able to access parts of my brain and parts of my history and things that had been traumatic that I didn't even realize were traumatic. Yeah, it wasn't until then that I was able to actually see what was going on.
So did the traditional therapy, do you feel that set the stage for that next step that you took when it came to using the tool of psychedelic medicine?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. They're so far apart. I mean, well, number one, the therapy I'm talking about, like I was young, and so I can't draw a correlation. I could say it helped me, it improved my life, but it didn't set the stage or anything. I honestly don't think anything can set this. My first psychedelic was ayahuasca, so I don't think that anything can set the stage for that. As many YouTube videos as I watched to see what's the correlation between everybody's experiences, like what am I going to experience? Nobody had the same experience, and I didn't have the same experience. So I don't think anything set the stage. That's just one of the things that you have to kind of muster up your courage for and just go through it. Honestly.
All right. So you mentioned your first experience with ayahuasca, and I am curious as to what that experience was like. And before ayahuasca, you had no prerequisite. You didn't know what to expect. You didn't know. Okay, yeah. So I'm very curious as to like what that experience was like, and like maybe even what led you to seek that, or did it find you, and what was that experience like?
So I don't know where I first heard about the medicine. I can't recall. It was just kind of something that I was aware of and something in my consciousness. And I was living in California, kind of away from everyone that I knew. And I had a breakup, and I was in a relationship, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like who I'm being. I need to change myself radically. Like I need to change myself radically and get out of this and heal. And it's funny because I thought like, okay, this will be a quick fix. Like I know what to do. Like I'll just, go ahead and experience these psychedelics, and everybody says it's healing, and like, I'll be fine. It couldn't have been further from the truth, but that's what led me to seek it out, because the discord that I was feeling was so painful that I was like, I need something radical. And so at the same time as I was thinking this, my coworker, we were at a conference, and she just mentioned that she had experienced ayahuasca, and she was like, I mean, I know a guy. And I was like, you trust the, she's like, I trust the guy. So it just so happened that it was going to be later on that month, and which was perfect because I was on antidepressants at the time, which you cannot use if you're doing ayahuasca. You might die, honestly. So it gave me enough time to stop the medication so that I would be okay for my first experience. And yeah, that's what led me to going down this road. And after that experience, I just felt the innate need, like I have to shed all these layers. And so I kept trying different ancient medicines and different psychedelics and just going through the motions of like, this is my, what do they call it? Caterpillar. This is my cocoon phase. Like this is what I got to do up in here.
By caterpillar cocoon phase, what do you mean by that?
Like I have to go underground. I was like, I'm going to take 2 years. I don't know if I said I was going to take 2 years and not date, or if that's just how long it was. But I was like, I'm just not going to date anyone. I honestly isolated myself. That's when I started traveling the world. So I spent 2 years traveling the world solo. And so I was completely isolated. You think it's so much fun. People who are traveling, like they're kicking it. They're whatever. You have to make like a concerted effort to develop community when you're traveling. And like, I tried, but inside of me, I knew, hey girl, that's not what this period of your life is for. Like, let's just get you alone real quick. Let's shed some things. And so I was just in this little cocoon and shedding and healing and preparing myself and strengthening my foundation to emerge as a butterfly. I still can't like say like, ooh, I'm a butterfly yet, but you know, we started the process.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting that you would say that, because when we talk about the analogy of a caterpillar, cocoon, butterfly, it can seem as if we're speaking about a final destination where it's like, okay, I'm a caterpillar now, and then I'll hop in this cocoon, and then when I pop out, I'll be a butterfly. And the butterfly is something to get to. But what I've found in my own personal experience is that it's never about the destination, but more so who it is that I become in the midst of the adversity or the challenge or whatever it is that I'm applying to my life. Whatever wisdom I'm cultivating in this moment is not to get me to a point of enlightenment or to the point of being a butterfly, but is more so of the process of getting there and who I become in the midst of that. So it's interesting that you would say, like, I'm not sure if I'm even a butterfly now, because like in that instance, like, are we ever the butterfly, or is this just a process of preparing our lives to become something other than what we started as? And then in the midst of that, cultivating the strength and the wisdom that allows for us to approach the next step with the capacity that we need for it.
So first of all, it's interesting that you say like end life other than what we started as. And that makes me think, because I always feel like we're trying to get back to that. Like we're actually trying to get back to when we had no programming or anything. However, you saying that makes me realize that no, in this lifetime, there are soul lessons that you didn't come here with. And so you can get back to like, you know, the innocence and that sense of love, but you will have gone through different soul lessons in this lifetime. But no, I think you're right. I don't think we're done. And you know me, everything I relate back to astrology, and you're always going to have Saturn somewhere. You're always going to have Pluto somewhere. It's always going to be transiting your chart. So there will always be a part of your life that you will feel like you're cocooning.
Yeah. So okay. So interesting segue. So what got you interested in astrology? And because I know like that's a big part of your life.
It is a big part of my life. Thank you for saying that. It's a huge part of my life. I don't know what got me interested in it. I think it's just one of those things. Like I've always been, I mean, as a child, I've always been interested in it. I started to do deeper research maybe in the last like 3 years. And it's just something about, actually, I I saw someone describe part of my chart. They were just talking about it and they were like, yeah, these people, like they had kind of emotionally turbulent childhoods. And so like, you know, amongst their caregivers. And so they always had to be hyper vigilant about what was going to happen next. And so these people kind of love astrology because they're always obsessed with like, okay, what is about to happen in my life? And I have to be honest with you, I think that's why I like it so much. But I also love human behavior and I love transformation so much that it's like I get to look at someone's chart, like Bryce, you know, I have yours pulled up right here, and I get to look at like, okay, this is the part of his life where he's learning a soul lesson, or like this is the part of his life where he's currently receiving really good karma. And it's just so interesting to look at a map that literally, can I show this? Actually, I'm not going to. I don't ever want anyone to look at my chart, so I'm going to.
I'm not tripping. As a matter of fact, I think it'd be very interesting to
really
do a read for the people who listen, who have gotten to know me, to like kind of, especially the people who are interested in astrology, to like know where it is my stars are.
Where your stars are. Okay. So everybody, take a screenshot. You can see my like ring light in the back, but take a little screenshot of this. This is what Bryce's chart looks like, and it's so beautiful. I could stare at these things all day. So I didn't prepare anything. Like there are some aspects that I would have to research. So what I noticed, the first thing that I noticed when I looked at this before was like, oh my God, like you have Jupiter and the sun in the 10th house, which is major, like major. And for people who know you, like your audience, Jupiter is a planet of good luck, expansion. It's where you receive like blessings in life, that things come super easy to you, but they might not come that easy to everybody else. And the sun is like light, heat, vitality, vibrance. It's also ego, but you know, it's the good stuff. And your 10th house, oh, your MC is at 15. Okay. That's 6 degrees away, so it's not that bad. Anyway, your 10th house is like career and public image and how you're seen by the public and what you want to do for career. Like, so for instance, like it's not for some people, what you do for career is what you do to make money. But for some people, like they have a job and they're, you know, growing their brand or whatever. So that's more 6th house is your job. So you also have Chiron there, which is interesting. What's your birthday again?
June 22nd, 89.
89?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
I'm holding on to the edge of my seat because I am interested.
Basically, you have extreme like luck and ease and like your career and public image. And it's like the first time, like these are those people where, and there's other aspects to this too, but these are those people where like you can kind of like, for instance, you know, you ever like go to someone's Instagram and like, you're like, oh, it just feels like, oh, this person is a star type thing.
Yeah.
But you haven't like looked at the amount of followers or a TikTok, not TikTok, what are they called? Reels? Mm-hmm. I'm old. See, I'm 85. Mm-hmm. I'm a little. Those TikToks might like reels might come up like, and you don't know who the person is. Like you can't see how many followers, you can't see anything, but you just know like, oh, this person is a star.
Yeah, the presence.
Yeah. And then you click and you're like, oh, okay, like they do have, you know, a lot of followers, a lot of strong, and it's also 3rd house, which I won't get into right now. But anyway, that is what you have. And I remember the first time I saw you, I was like, oh, he's dope. Like he's doing it. Cause for those of you who don't know, we met on the morning meetup. Yeah.
David Shands has a meetup every morning, Monday through Friday, for entrepreneurs. Social Proof Podcast it's a very good podcast to listen to, and has inspired a lot of the moves that I've made. And I just met David Shands in person this past weekend. He made it out to Florida. I went out there in Myron Golden's Offer Mastery Bootcamp live. It was a life-changing event, and I feel like I'm in vibrational alignment right now. So, and with that being said, so if we're talking about followers, you know, on Instagram, you got 36.2K, but you know who's counting. And so is there a specific way that somebody with an astrology read like mine can align the numbers with the presence and the star power? So how would you suggest that I fully manifest these? Because my numbers aren't 36.2K right now. Now I feel that I'm in the process of aligning who it is that I am on the inside, on the outside, and I have some ideas, and there's a couple of plays that play right now as we speak. But I'm interested to see, what would your suggestion be to kind of like take this power and use it?
So the first thing that came to mind was to look at your north node, which is your north. Oh, is this your north or your south? It is that is going to be, hold on, let me calculate. Yeah, that is going to be your north node. So you're about to have, like, literally in like a few days, like in the next month or two. You're excited. It means that your north node, and your north node is like your destiny, and Jupiter is like all the blessings and all that. So I would say, like, if there's whatever play you're talking about, like if it's like a sequential play, keep running it. If there are important like things that you want to do that you know are going to propel you, and this is not like number wise, this is like career wise, then definitely like study your chart really intensely, and I can help you with this. And then you'll be able to see transits that happen, like things that will aspect your Venus, your Sun, your Jupiter, and like I said, your North Node. And whenever planets are transiting Gemini for you, because that's where your 10th house is. So like watch for I'll help you. I will help you. Watch for those. And when it comes to like social media, like I personally, that's what happened to me. My following grew to like 40 something. This is back when the thing was chronological. It was like 45 or something, or 47. Yeah, I think it was like at 47. But that was so long ago. Like that was like 2014, literally. And so it's dropped since then. I'm like, are y'all bots? Like, what? I don't know what's happened, but that was when Jupiter was transiting. Was it 2014? Either way, it was a Jupiter transit. So the biggest thing I think is to, whatever number you want, like make that your goal, and then you will be guided exactly what move to make. Just trust. Trust.
That's super interesting, because like this season of my life has been one in which I've been coming more into contact with my intuition, and I have been just allowing the natural organic cultivation of my intuitive voice to be heard. And it's been interesting.
Do you feel like you always get it right, or are you still learning it, or what?
Look, I know you was vibing, and I hate to interrupt your flow. We're going to get right back to the episode in a second. But I interrupt the program for good reasoning. Look, if you are here listening to You Feel That, the absolute best emotional, mental, and spiritual empowerment podcast for creatives and entrepreneurs, chances are you're either being called to build something and are looking for where to start. You've already defined what it is that you're looking to build and are currently fleshing that out. And you're here looking for encouragement, motivation, and more context for yourself and your business to help you to continue to manifest. Or maybe you've been around the block a few times. You've taken something from ideation to creation, and you know in order to stay on top of your game and continue to win, you have to stay sharp. And you're here to make sure that you're perpetually the sharpest tool in the shed. So I got to thinking, what is one common problem that all three of these people share? Number one, knowing who we are. We don't know who we are. Even when you achieve something, even when you accomplish something, it can be hard to figure out who we are, because once we accomplish something, things change. Life continuously changes. And in those changes, we continuously change. We cannot stay the same or else we become obsolete. And look, I could just hear your ears perking up. You may not know who you are right now in this season of your life. And number two, where we're going. Whether this is your first time setting out on your entrepreneurial adventure or you're a veteran who spent the block a few times, the destination always changes, because when we get there, there's somewhere else to go. And then when we get there, there's somewhere else to go. So a process that allows for us to have a finger on the pulse of our internal compass, regardless of what the external circumstances are, is invaluable to our process of building anything great. All right, I hear your ears perking up again. You don't have a process. So look, you don't know who you are and you don't have no process. What if I told you I wrote a manual to help you discover these things within yourself? I hear those ears perking up again. The Handbook, a pocket guide for creating your desired reality and being a good human while you're at it, is available for purchase right now. Within this book, we dig into and develop a foundation within ourselves of perception, gratitude, understanding, completion, all of the timeless principles that will help you to discover your path for the first time or for the 12th time. This book will help you find yourself or remember who you are, as well as get clear on the pathway towards what it is you're looking to create. If this sounds like something you could benefit from, you need to go ahead and grab your copy. Head on over to brycethe3rd.com/the handbook. The link is conveniently located in the podcast description below, wherever you're looking at or listening to this podcast. You can even go on Amazon and search on Amazon The Handbook by Bryce III and grab your copy. When I first got started on my entrepreneurial journey, I wish I had a handbook to help me discover who it is that I am and where it is that I'm going. And now you got one. Grab your copy of the handbook today and unlock the key to your clarity in business and in life. All right, back to the show.
I'm still figuring it out, but every move that I've made has led me towards understanding. If it didn't work for me, it worked on me. And I can't think of a time where I thought I heard the voice and it wasn't a voice. I can't think of a time where I thought I heard the voice and it wasn't a voice. I could tell you a time where I thought I heard the voice, I didn't listen to the voice, and then I had an experience that didn't align with where it was that I was trying to go. But I can't say that any time that I thought I heard the voice that it wasn't the voice. So just coming into contact with my personal intuition and learning how to listen to it, learning how to have faith, and learning how to submit to the process, regardless of how it is that things look. And also learning how to really be guided by emotions and really create emotions, with emotion being energy in motion, and not suppressing, but like, you know, I teach here, you feel that, like finding which emotions I desire and focusing on the things that promote and produce those emotions versus the emotions that I don't desire. You know, so not suppression of the undesirable emotions, but focus on the desirable emotions. And, you know, whatever we focus on expands. So then I look around and my life is just way more good feelings than not. And I just really appreciate it because I act more intuitively. I act more creatively, like when I feel better. So it's just, you know, it's been a process.
That's dope. And that's something you can teach to your kids.
Oh yeah. And they've been along for the ride since I got on the ride. So it bleeds into every aspect of our lives, creatively, in my entrepreneurship, in some of the companies that I've been able to help, parenthood, friendship wise. It bleeds into every aspect of my life, and it's just important that I continue to cultivate it, especially in the season right now. And which leads us back to the plant medicine, which I haven't done a lot of talking on. You feel that about my experience with plant medicine. I am in the process of developing a episode where I speak about my own experience with plant medicine, but there will be a disclaimer on the front because I'm a person in recovery from substance abuse and alcoholism. And with that, I know a lot of people that are in 12-step programs or that have dealt with substance use and alcoholism, like will have listened to this podcast and use it as a compass or a guidepost as to how to put their lives together. And for me, the disclaimer, I've already recorded the disclaimer because it came to me. I was inspired to create it or inspired to record it. And in the disclaimer, I'm like, it was 7 years of complete abstinence from all mind-altering substances except for nicotine and caffeine before I actually did my first psychedelic experience. And I needed that. I needed that as a precursor. I needed that as a prerequisite so that I could build tools and build a relationship with my own personal intuition up until that point before I introduced these mind altering substances into the mix. And I know there's somebody who may just be getting out of rehab, and because I have experience with being that type of person who was like, well, damn, just give me something. Like when I went to rehab, like I was like, shit, just give me a pill so that I don't got to take these pills I was taking no more. Like, just give me like a quick fix. I didn't know I was going for like a spiritual reset, like, or not even a reset. Like, I don't think I had even a spiritual foundation to begin with. So I didn't know that I was going in there to begin a new life and really start to be like a good, intentional person. I went in there like, fix me. I'm going through some shit. I don't know what it is. I'm to a level of desperation. This little girl I had two or 3 years ago, she was maybe like 2 or 3 at that point. My daughter, like, she keeps fucking looking at me and she needs something from me, and I don't have it within me. I feel like a shell of a man. Like, give me something so I don't have to go through this no more, or I don't have to feel this no more. And what I found was a whole nother way of life. So that was a process that I needed, and there wasn't anything externally that would have, well, I don't know, right? We could do the woulda, coulda, shouldas, but at that point in time, like, I didn't need anything externally because I felt like that's what I needed, right? So somebody might be getting out of rehab and checking out You Feel That because they know that I'm a person in recovery from substance use and alcoholism, and the first episode they hear could be Psychedelics in recovery, and it's like, oh, well, that's the thing, that's what I need. And it's like, nah, like, even in my experience with psychedelics, like that's not what I needed. I had like so I'm in a season of my life right now where I'm not doing anything. Like, I might microdose every now and then, but I'm not doing any macros because I found some things, and I actually have been assigned some assignments. And going in, if I go in right now, I know I'm just going to get that assignment. It's like, bro, you're not implementing. Like, you keep showing up here and you're looking for answers, and we gave you the answer. So it's time for you to implement and create these things in your life and create the life that you desire with the answers that we gave you. And, you know, if not, like, you're just going to have to feel very strongly that you're not putting this shit into action. So it's like, I'm not sitting with anything right now because, like, I have a feeling that that's what I'm going to be told. Like, why are you back here? you didn't implement any of the things that we gave you last time. And so we're just going to give you intense anxiety because instead of doing what it is that we told you to do, you're doing this. And this isn't what is for you in the season right now. So I'm actually in a period where I'm not touching anything for real. I'm really like, what I'm touching is what it is that I've been assigned. I'm touching my assignment. And, you know,
that's dope.
Yeah, so but like, I think I needed that experience because for a long time, like, I didn't go more than 3 weeks without some type of dose of something. You know, I didn't go like 3 weeks was about a long time. Maybe like every 2 weeks, like, I'll do like a 4 or 5 gram trip to just kind of go back in and go back in and go back in. And yeah, I had a couple of big ones where it was like, kind of spirit shattering, like earth shattering revelation, but, you know, just kind of like point me towards like, yo, this isn't what this season is for. Like, you had the season of having this discovery, and it was new, and it was, you know, but now it's like, it's time to implement. It's time to integrate.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I think that's beautiful. And I know you've agreed to come on my podcast, so I want to like dig super deep when we do that.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm like, I know that for you and I, since our charts are so similar, it's like, I know that same thing. Like, I'm feeling the same thing as you. Like, that was the time for me to go inward, and now is the time for me to go outward. Mm-hmm. Is that how it feels to you?
Yeah, creation. Like, I'm being called to create, and there are circumstances in life, and circumstances come and go, and I've been shown the malleability of the circumstances, but I feel like I kept going back, like, well, how do I change the circumstances? How do I change the circumstances? Like, what do I need to do? And it's just like, yo, the circumstances aren't as permanent as you think they are. That's all you're going to find every time you come here is how impermanent the circumstances are. So go change them and change them in this way, and have this energy about it when you move, and know that this is your assignment. And it's like, okay. And then I showed up a couple of times, and I really got my shit blown out. Like, it's like, oh, you really want to see how malleable everything is, huh?
Really?
And then so, whoosh, and it's like, oh shit. And I had to come back in. And I had to integrate that. And I'm still, like, there's still things that can pop up. Like, I was at this conference over the past couple of days, and somebody said, like, I'll hear like little phrases that remind me of an experience that I had with the medicine. And then I'll just start to feeling it like, oh shit. Like, so there was this thing that was said where you can, I'm gonna butcher it. You can talk without thinking, but you can't think without talking. So you can speak without thinking, but you can't think without language. And like, that reminded me of my Changa experience, because like, that was fucking scary, because I began to think without language. I began to that's why I was trying to hold on. Like, when I was first going up, I didn't, like, I was confused, but I was confused as to what confusion was. But then even that confusion was like, what is this? Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'm thinking that voice inside of our heads, like, it was slowly disintegrating. And I was beginning to, like, I went to my process of thinking, and it wasn't there because I didn't have the ability to do so, because like, it was disintegrating. The I that, when I say I'm on this podcast or I'm talking to you, had begun to disintegrate. And it was fucking terrifying. Like, it scared me because of what it is that, we come to understand ourselves as being. So it's like, have I ceased to exist? And you know, and then even there in integration, it was like, well, what is super scary about that? And it was like, I wasn't crazy scared to no longer exist, but it did fuck me up to like, okay, but if I don't exist, then the people that I am what I am to no longer have that experience. And so like, my daughter, like I'm not a dad to my daughter, or, you know, my son, I'm not a dad to my son, or like the people that, you know, really, it was just those two that really stuck out. Like, damn, like, really my daughter for real. Like, damn, like, I'm not a dad to my daughter. And that kind of fucked me up. Like, I'm not gonna spoil. I just went to go see Spider-Man. There was some things that happened in Spider-Man where it was like, it made me think like, damn, like, what if nobody remembered me? You know, like, what if I wasn't who I am to the people that I am that too? And I think that's what was the most scary thing about that. So but when that was said at the conference, it was like, oh shit, and it got me to thinking. And like I said, this has been the longest period since I've started because I only started using psychedelics this year. So since I started using psychedelics, maybe in the middle of this year, this has been the longest period of implementation, of integration of my experiences thus far. And, you know, every now and then one of these things will just pop up like, oh shit. And I'm still kind of like putting it together.
That is so dope. Again, I can't wait to go deeper and ask you all these questions. But what I love is that you recognize that it's not time to keep going back in. It's time to implement what you learned. And I think that's just beautiful for your listeners who might be, you know, they might be substance abusers as well.
So we'll say substance use.
Substance users, thank you. Substance users. The fact that they see you and you've been able to experience something mind altering, but also you have that internal stop button, and it's not a struggle or it's not a fight. It's just you're accepting it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're to get like completely 100% honest, like mushrooms and plant medicine and like the things that I used for experiential avoidance are are not the same. And whereas, you know, Xanax or alcohol, or even for some weed, like, will be a thing where it's like, oh, this takes my mind off of this, you know, but mushrooms or plant medicines, like, are non-specific amplifiers. So even like the shit that you're running from is going to get put right in front of your face. And so I can try to avoid all day, but I can't go anywhere. And so mushrooms versus like Xanax or something like that, like the things that I used to abuse, mushrooms will give you an experience where it's like, this ain't it right now. I'm not supposed to be doing this shit. Versus like Xanax, it's like every time it's like, I can avoid, or like, fuck that shit I was tripping about, or like mushrooms is gonna be like, oh fuck, like I'm filled with waves of anxiety and I'm being pointed to all these things that I'm trying to avoid. And it's like, okay, the next time I come here will be when I'm called to it, because I've implemented some of the things that the medicine has shown me. So very, and I think like, and this has been my dilemma a bit, because it's like, I don't want to, being at the forefront of, you know, recovery, and like, I don't want, like, one, I want to be transparent, open, and honest. I also don't want people to take what it is that I'm talking and sharing and using that as an excuse to use these things as a mode of experiential avoidance, because it's not going to work. And I don't want people to, I can't control what people do, but I want to decrease the probability for people to use, oh, well, Bryce is a person in recovery. Bryce is somebody I look up to. Bryce is somebody that I want to model my recovery after. And Bryce uses psychedelics. So I'm one day out of rehab and who got the mushrooms? You know, like, so I want to avoid that as much as I possibly can. I can't control people, places, or things, but I want to avoid the misunderstanding as much as I can. So I'm just working on putting the message together. But I think it's important, because when I was first researching psychedelics, it was hard to find communities of people in recovery that are using psychedelics. Now, once I started getting into it and like really started digging, I found some communities. People that belong to 12-step and that use psychedelics. As a matter of fact, the most recent discovery I found is a 12-step program, PSR, Psychedelics in Recovery. So, but I haven't been to any of the meetings, but there is a 12-step program of people that use psychedelics, have used psychedelics. I found psychedelic integration circles in Detroit, on the Detroit Psychedelic Societies. There's 2 of them. There's the Michigan Psychedelic Society. So I found, but I had to search, I had to dig, I had to do my research. And I think especially now that things are becoming decriminalized, and these things are something that are kind of on the forefront of being a viable option to, you know, mental health, spiritual health, personal spiritual development, that we know how to use these tools. And that especially on the front of like recovery, like, because it can add to your recovery. It has added to my recovery. As a matter of fact, like just this year alone, like I already am somebody who develops and grows exponentially, and adding these tools has allowed for me to really see some of the patterns that maybe I wouldn't have been able to see without them. And in seeing the patterns, now I've been empowered to be able to break the patterns, and not even to break the patterns, but it's like, okay, so a mentor of mine says, if I have a CD and a CD deck and I want somebody else to, you know, or I want to listen to another CD, like I can't put my CD in over that CD. Like it's not going to work. Like I got to eject that CD and then scratch that CD up so nobody wants to play the CD anymore, and then put the new CD in. So a lot of times we try to replace habits with new habits, but we haven't looked at the old habit. We haven't looked at the old pattern, and we haven't disqualified the old pattern before we try to implement the new pattern. So it becomes this thing where it's like there's confusion in the pattern implementation, because that old pattern is still there. We're just trying to replace it with a new one. So what psychedelics has allowed for me to do is kind of like pull the CD, my old CD out, scratch that boy up so I no longer wanted to play it, and then put this new CD in. And it's like, okay, this is a whole new operating system. So it's been a very interesting, very necessary, very, very growth inducing process. And I think it's a lot of meditation that has to go into using these tools to make sure that we're doing it with the right intentions.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And you probably, well, you may have, because you're pretty in tune with yourself. And I suspect you've always been in tune with yourself, even when you may have felt like you were, going through it. Like, did you even know that CD was in there? That's my question.
No, there was a lot of time I didn't. And I mean, there's still probably some CDs that are in the 6-disc CD changer that I don't know where they are, what they sound like, And,
I forgot that existed, Lord.
But it's like having this awareness allows for me to like look at things with that eye that it's like, oh, why did I say that? Like how you said earlier, like I am choosy of my words because my words are an indication of my belief systems. So when I say things, it's like, where did that come from? Do I really believe that? And you're like, what is really behind these words? And I notice, especially doing coaching, being a coach, when people will say things and it'll be automatic process. They think what needs to change is this external thing, like I need this new job, or I need to find direction, or I need this, I need that. But no, actually, you just told me you can't win for losing, or you told me that everybody, there's nobody you can trust, or there's nobody. It's just these automatic things that you say that are indications of your belief set. And it's like, so it's not about anything externally. Like I said, circumstances are circumstantial. They'll change. Things come and go. Things are malleable. But what is carried throughout all these circumstances is you and your belief set. So what is the foundation that you're moving throughout the world with, and how can we come into contact with the things inside of you that don't serve you, so that we can take that CD out, scratch it up, and then put something new in there that'll serve you and empower you to go to where it is that you desire.
Drops the mic. I mean, what can you say after that? That's beautiful.
Yeah. So how has using plant medicine helped you spiritually, mentally, emotionally? How has it, I don't want to put words in your mouth, how has it modified your experience in the world?
So I think that when I was younger, I put up a lot of barriers, and I think I'm going to be honest. I think this is where it originated, though I don't have access to my mind at that point. But when I was born, I was sick, and so I had to stay in the hospital for a month. And I can only imagine being ripped away from your mother and father and being in an incubator for a month, and only taken out to feed a bottle that's not even your mom's breast milk. And you're just in this thing, panicked for a whole month, wondering where the heck, like, what happened? Where did my mom go? And my dad, he was obviously, that's not obvious, but he was there for the whole birth. Like, where did these two beings go that I'm so used to? And so I can only imagine that like caused me to kind of harden myself a little bit. And I think childhood experiences, I just got hardened even more and put up more barriers and more blocks and more mental barriers and blocks and just other things that I went through in childhood and adolescence. And when I had my first experience, I went, like I said, I had that relationship, that breakup. I was like, okay, this is what I'm working on. And the ayahuasca didn't take me there at all. I don't even think that was even a part of the ceremony. I mean, I don't remember that it was a part of the ceremony at all. But the first two lessons that I learned on ayahuasca was one, that God doesn't really care how much you achieve, or in terms of outward like accolades and building a business or making this amount of money or, reaching this goal. It's really about how much you love yourself and how much you love those around you. And the second thing, there were 2 nights, and on the first night, I remember after we're doing our debrief, this guy who was in ceremony with me was like, yo, no one ever really dies. Like, we don't die. We just transcend this experience. And I was like, okay, dope. You know, understanding his words, but not fully getting it. And when I was in the ceremony on day 2, that was the lesson that I got. And I can't explain it, because even hearing it, you can hear it on a conscious level, but to experience it and to actually come in contact with beings who are still here, but just don't have a body, it's mind blowing. And you do have to experience it in order to feel it. And so what psychedelics did for me that first time, I think, was like completely shatter my reality. And it like made the first crack. Like, okay, we got her. Let's like really hard. Like, okay, this shell of this clay that she's built up over her true being is so not it. Like, let's make the first crack. And that first crack, I was like fucked up, for lack of a better word, for months. I mean, months on end. And when you leave the circle, everyone tells you happy integration. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. I got this. But that was not the case. My integration, and that first lesson, that loving yourself and the people around you, that lesson is still going on to today. But the shattering of the reality that I thought was reality, that's what it kind of did for me. It started to shatter that. And now more information has come in, more me like living in harmony with the universe instead of creating my own little fake universe. So there are other little things that it's done in terms of healing little parts of me or changing my patterns. But I can say the biggest thing is like that I want everyone to experience who's not there yet is like, hey, like pay attention. This reality that you've created that's not the point of life. That's not what it really is.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. And how do you feel that experience changed your perspective on those boundaries that you spoke about, that you feel that maybe you had started developing since birth in your experience in the very beginning of this manifestation, this life? Like how did that experience change your perspective from what I can tell, like some of that hardening that you feel that you may have developed due to your experience?
So that situation probably kept leading me onto self-discovery. And I will say that astrology is actually the thing that has changed my perspective on that situation, because I was born with a grand fixed cross, and that's like one of the most difficult aspects in astrology, and it's like extremely rare. I don't even know how many decades it takes for it to happen. The way the planets align explain exactly how my life started and continues to go. So digging deep into the chart has made me look at things with a different eye. And I suggest this to anyone, like digging into your chart, because if you look, so there are like positive aspects, and then there are quote unquote like negative aspects or aspects that aren't comfortable. And when you look at the negative aspects, those are the ones for me that have led to a lot of self-love, because I realized that, hey, it's not, for instance, I like a couple months ago, I was just like so angry. And I mean, Mars was transiting where it was, so let's take that. But I was like so angry, and I was like, and I even remember a plant medicine ceremony that I was trying to get rid of some anger. And it's like, if you're looking for this source of anger, once I looked at my chart and I realized like, oh, you have like all these squares and oppositions to your Mars, which is like that anger that it's in the chart. There's no childhood experience that made this happen. You're not gonna, if I were to spend my whole life trying to heal this anger, I would be going on a discovery that would never end because it had nothing to do with my childhood experiences. It's all in the chart. And what I have to do is take it upon myself to learn how to overcome these things. For instance, like, okay, eat, Amanda, for you, you're going to have to eat cooling foods. You're going to you have to commit to your meditation practice. You may have to start doing yoga. These are just preventative things. And I'm very sensitive to you and your listeners. So I'm just using my friend as an example, though I've not had this experience. But for her, she says that she has an addictive personality. And she's like, listen, because she was in, a 12-step program as well. And then after she got off alcohol, like she ate a lot. So food was her addiction. And she had to completely eat sober, like no sugar at all, no this, no that for like a couple years. And she's still on it, even though she's surpassed her weight loss goal. She's lost like 130 something pounds. And for her, she just knows this, for whatever reason, this is how I'm using basically her language. This is how my brain works. And these are the measures that I have to take to overcome it. I can't, I'm not going to spend time going back in my childhood, figuring out where this originated. I'm going to deal with what's going on right here, right now. Mm-hmm. And so for me, digging in the chart, that's what that did for me. It led to self-love. Like, oh, I'm not just an angry little monger. Like no, this is my chart.
Yeah.
It also makes me dope as fuck. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think you touched on a couple of cool things. One specifically being there can tend to be an overemphasis on what has happened when it comes to emotional wellness or when it comes to creating our desired reality. And I've just found that it's less about, for me, what has happened. So yes, there was an initial inventory. Like when I began to get intentional about where it is that I'm going and what it is that I want, I had to kind of pull out all of the instances that I could think of at that moment. Because, as we having a practice, as we continue to move, different things pop up. It's like, oh, damn, I forgot that happened. And it wasn't until I ran into this person that I was reminded that I had this experience. But there was an initial inventory taking process that allowed me to pull things out and yeah, that did happen. Like, how did this make me feel? And for me, it was emphasis on the roles that I play and how I can take responsibility for those things, because that's the most important thing moving forward. That was actually my first time even asking myself, what role did I play, which kind of anchored the rest of, anchored my foundation. That's how I began to move. So now I move and, seek to understand and then to be understood, because it's the only side of the street I can take care of really is my side of the street, or I can't control people, places, or things. This was all developed from that initial inventory taken, that initial process. And moving forward, it becomes it becomes a process of understanding who it is that I am now, so I can build a process around it that enables me to be empowered versus debilitated. I mean, that's what we talk about here on You Feel That, the developing process that is applicable to who it is that we've discovered that we are, so that we can move in the best way for us in alignment with what it is that we desire. If this thing happened to me back then and me focusing on trying to figure out why it happened and why this and why that, why this, where I am in life now, it becomes this thing that prevents me from having an empowered experience in this moment. Whereas if I just know okay, yeah, I tend to get distracted easily. Maybe that won't always be the case, but for right now it is. So I need to have a little bit more structure going into something, knowing, okay, knock this out, which gives me a sense of accomplishment and also keeps me on track, because it's what I need. And maybe I desire to be somebody who is concentrated, because I also want to make sure that I don't identify with this trait, right? So a lot of times, you know, and it's a practice to not identify with a trait, where it's like I get distracted a lot. And it's like, it's no longer a pattern when we say it like that, because now it's us. And how do you change? Is way harder to change ourselves than it is to get rid of a pattern, right? So when it's like, okay, I have the experience of becoming distracted easily, and that might not always be the case, but for right now, let me put this process in place so that I can, because I'm prepared for it, and then it allows me to be the best that I can in this moment. And in the future, that may change, but like we don't focus on that process when the emphasis is on, well, this is just how I am, and this is what happened to me that made me this way, and like it just become this thing where it's like I'm debilitated, like I'm not empowered right now because of some shit that I had no control over. Like, you know, when I was born, this happened, or when, you know, I was a kid, you know, I got touched in this way, or when I was at the grocery store when I was a shorty, like somebody stole me, I got kidnapped, or whatever it is. Like I've heard so many different stories, and I have my own personal stories. And until we take a hold of those stories and delve into them and discover what it is that we could take out of them to, in this moment, become empowered, like they will always be this thing that, you know, debilitate us. Like I eat so much because blah, blah, blah happened to me, and that's why I eat so much. And now it's like this thing I have no input in whatsoever. So yeah, I think that's what I got the most out of what you share, especially with your friend, where it's like, you know, this is the experience that I'm having right now. It's important for me to have these tools available to me, because this is how I combat these patterns. And eventually, you know, we take that CD out, we scratch it up and put another CD in. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do want to stress too, I think there's an importance in learning when you have to scratch the CD and when you should look at the CD, because I mean, you should scratch it. You should scratch it, but sometimes you do need professional help to look at the CD first. Like, I think if it's something that keeps on coming up in your consciousness, like, and you feel a lot of pain around it anytime you think about it, I think that is when you hire someone like a professional to help you process those emotions. And then, like you said, that at that point, you know, some point you should scratch the CD and put a new one in there.
I do agree. I do agree wholeheartedly. And it's just like, it's not a linear one size fit all process for nobody. We all have our own experiences. Nobody has a monopoly on what's right, and we got to do what's right for us. But I think the most important part of the journey is to realize and to claim the fact that we're on a journey, and it's a practice. It's a practice. There's been so many things that will pop up, and it's like, damn, I thought I healed from that. Like, damn. And there's some feelings that come up, and it wasn't until like I accepted that this is my experience. Like it wasn't until that I began to heal from it. So it's like maybe people that when I heard their voice or I synced them, I'm like, I felt a way, and it's like, damn, I don't want to feel this way. This way doesn't align with who it is that I want to be. Why do I keep having a fucking experience? Like, why can I just not feel this way? And then, but whatever we resist persists and gets bigger. So, like, I've had to, like, okay, well, when I talk to this person, I just feel this way. And it just is what it is. And to this day, like, if I talk to a certain person, like, I will feel that way. But it's like, this is part of my experience. And my desire is for me to massage this feeling out in a way that doesn't disempower me, like in a way that allows me to have compassion for my own experience.
Yeah. God, it's so beautiful, Bryce. You got all the answers. I know you're gonna be like, no, I don't. You got a lot of them. You got a lot of them. You got a lot of the answers for you. I'm not saying
that way.
Yep.
That way. Yep. And even what's crazy is, like, even though it's so, you know, we get so far removed from when we discovered that answer, you know, and we have a little bit more experience in life, and we're showing a few more things, that answer is no longer applicable. Like, dang, I thought I knew the answer. And then I got the willingness to be humble and, you know, admit that I don't know what to do in this circumstance, or I've never felt this way. I've never come across this. So, like, submitting to the process of, like, okay, it's time to be in class. You know, life is the greatest teacher that we'll ever experience.
Oh, it's time to be in class. God.
A lot of times we want to hop to the front and be the professor all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what I do in this circumstance when I meet this person and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, maybe in this instance, I've never been here. So maybe let me sit my ass down in a desk, because now it's time to learn some things and cultivate this wisdom.
You know what's funny? I actually prefer to be in class. Like how you said you prefer to be like in the front. I prefer to be in the back of the class. Like I'm here. I don't know anything. Just teach me.
Yeah.
That's where I prefer to be, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I have a preference. I think being in class allows me to be at the front. It allows me to have it allows me to not have that imposter syndrome where it's like, I shouldn't be at the front of this class teaching. Like the time I've spent in a desk lets me know my experience in the desk gives me the capacity to be at the front of the class, and my willingness to sit my ass down back in a desk continues to give me the capacity to stand up and be in front of the class.
That's real.
There's always some people that my mentor said, all you got to do is stay a week ahead of people. So there's always going to be somebody who is a week behind you or a month behind you or some years behind you, and they need a reference point. And if I have the ability to be so, like, it's almost selfish of me not to share the things that I've learned with people in hopes that maybe they can shortcut the process. Abraham Hicks says, we've all had that experience of, sitting out and being, on the patio, and we've asked for some answers from the universe, and then a bird comes and looks at us in a specific way that kind of gives us the answer or lets us know that our questions are being heard by the universe, and we're receiving them signs. And sometimes we are that blue jay for somebody else. Sometimes we are that bird for somebody else. And I think the whole process is important. I think we all play roles for each other in life. So I got to be at the front of the class because I've been called to it.
But
I mean, the reason I could be at the front,
you in the front of the class, like right there, you are in the front of that class.
Yeah, but the calling came from being in my seat. Yeah. So I respect your time. I don't want to hold you. I know we could talk for like 13,000 hours for sure. So, but before we get up out of here, I did want to kind of dig into when was the moment that you became interested in sharing your experience with the world and sharing the experience of plant medicine and psychedelic healing with others? What was the point in your life where you felt like I gotta share this, I gotta teach this, I gotta help other people to have this experience?
So I felt like sharing it actually before I had my first experience. I was like, everybody come along with me to this journey. It was 2017. And I was like, come along with me. I'm about to do ayahuasca. And so I felt like sharing it at that point, when I felt like, how you said, assisting people to move in the direction of experiencing the healing themselves. That was December 2018. And I was in a hotel in Cusco, Peru, about to travel to Pisac to do a Wachuma ceremony. And it was my second ceremony with this Wachumero. And I was like, oh my God, I should do this. Like, I should have everyone, like, do it. Like, I should hold a retreat and have everybody, create the container for everybody to visit this Wachumero and experience the same healing. So that's when I announced that I was going to have a retreat back then. So I take that as my official, okay, this is what I'm doing. So yeah, December 2018. And that ceremony was so beautiful. So I know we're running out of time. We'll have to talk about it another time. But that was when I decided, look, I have experienced so much healing, and I want everyone to experience the same level of healing and clarity and love and openness with, and honestly, I could say, I feel like now, I feel like Will Smith said this a long time ago, like a decade ago or something. Like, now I feel like, okay, I'm dancing with the universe, and I want everyone to experience that same dance, as opposed to fighting it, hiding it, not even knowing that your relationship with the cosmos exists.
Hand in hand with the spirit of the universe.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful place to be, where even the most undesirable circumstances play a role into the whole of the choreography.
Listen, And on that note, I'm going to say it's also beautiful when you do look at astrology and you look at your transits, because you're able to kind of predict when you might have a kind of not so good experience. But what it allows you to do is sit in it and realize that it's not going to be forever. This is a hack, but like when Venus was just transiting my Saturn, I was like, this is going to be some bullshit, but like, I'll feel better on Wednesday. Like you just sit in it and you learn the lessons and you move forward. So that's also for me, part of, it's a tool and a dance. And that's when you realize this is a soul lesson I just literally have to go through. Yeah. So thank you, Bryce.
No, thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up. And I know the listeners of You Feel That will get a ton from this episode. There was a lot of gems dropped, and I'm pretty sure we may have piqued the curiosity of some that have never had a psychedelic experience. And hopefully we framed it in such a way that lets the listeners know that this is not no game. This is not nothing to be played with. This is not experiential avoidance. This is not something to make us feel better temporarily. As a matter of fact, in my experience, it can be used like that, which is very interesting, because I've had conversations with people that have been able to like just eat mushrooms and fucking watch action movies, and I just haven't had that experience. Even when I was in my active addiction, I used mushrooms, I used LSD a couple of times, and when I was in my active addiction, I didn't like it. It lasted too long, and this is not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. Like I just wanted to get high. Like I just want to get high and just chill for real, and this is not what I want. But not no plaything, but here at You Feel That, we put tools on the floor just so that you have the ability to sort through the tools and figure out which ones work for you and apply to you in your circumstance. So I hope that today we've started a conversation that may have piqued your interest, or may have been something that you can relate to because you've already used psychedelics and haven't had anybody to talk to about it. Because that's another thing too, having community to be able to integrate our experiences and see how similar or how different our experiences have been has been a godsend for me in my experience with using these tools. So yes.
And I want to say I am having a retreat in Michigan. Obviously, this is a podcast, so it's going to live forever. So I just invite you. I have an upcoming retreat in Michigan, an upcoming retreat in Tulum. So whenever you're listening to this, I invite you to text me the word retreat. And when you do that, you'll be on the notification list for whatever retreat I have coming up. 404-737-3107. So just text the word retreat.
And we'll have a link in the show notes of this podcast episode, wherever you are listening to or watching this podcast at. It'll be down in the description below. All of Amanda's contact, her Instagram, and how you can get involved with her retreats that she has upcoming. And I'm pretty sure she'll always have some type of retreat or something going on. So regardless of when you listen to this podcast, that information will be pertinent and accessible. All right, so to wrap us up, I got to ask you all, head over to Apple Podcasts if you have an Apple device and rate and review this podcast, as I share with you all every time we get together. I don't know how much the algorithm favors people with the stars, with all the stars, but I know for me, an avid podcast listener, when I show up to a podcast and I see that there's multiple people leaving multiple detailed written reviews, that is usually a deciding factor as to whether I listen to the episode or not. So we help each other because, our community is organically growing. We help each other to bring other people here, to be able to help other people's lives, and to make sure that these tools are available to those who may need them by going and leaving that wordy review. If you can go and say some cool things about how this podcast has helped you, how this specific episode has helped you, that'd be great. Also, my book, my first book. Yes, I am a published author. The Handbook, How to Create Your Desired Reality and Be a Good Human While You're at It, is either out now or available for pre-order. So head to the description of this podcast and see the link down there below where you can get that book. And let me tell you, it is a book that will add value to your life, especially if you're someone who is looking for direction, if you're someone who may not necessarily know where it is that you're going, what we do in the book is help you to develop that relationship with yourself that puts you on a path, that helps you to develop that awareness of your compass and get you on the path towards creating your desired reality. And with all that said, Amanda, before we get out of here, do you have anything that you want to leave, a little droplet of wisdom, a nugget to leave our audience with?
You know, I think to remember to have present moment awareness, because anything you experience only happens in the present moment. Nothing happens in the future. Nothing happens in the past. Those things actually do not exist. So if you take care of the present moment will take care of you.
Dropping gems. It's the present because it's a gift, baby. Go ahead and unwrap that. And here we figure out all different types of ways to bring you here in the present. So thank you again, Amanda, for showing up on You Feel That with Bryce the Third. And I will catch you on the next episode.